We were looking at some of the languages in the Norse branch of the early modern period. When I got cut off in the last video, I was saying that it's in this time that Danish and Norwegian are consolidated in one kingdom, with the capital in the Danish part, so that Norwegian, which is originally a West Germanic language, begins to take on its East Norse tendencies and be written more and more like Danish, as I said in those particular videos. In this time period, Icelandic is no longer such a great literary language as it was in the prior period, but it continues along in its sort of unchanged way. But apart from Icelandic, branching out from West Norse in this time period, we get a very interesting phenomenon that I did not make a separate video of. I've never been able to study enough of it. There's not enough text, but the idea of it is interesting. It's called Norn. Norn was a kind of Icelandic or Norse that was spoken in the Orkney and Shetland Islands throughout this period, going extinct by the end of it. And what was particularly interesting about Norn, not that just that it was a variant of Icelandic, is that it apparently had a particularly high admixture of Irish in it, so that it was almost a mixed language. In that whole North Sea region, when the Vikings, the Icelanders, went out there, they did do a lot of intermingling with Irish, and so Irish blood and even the Irish language do have various degrees of influence throughout these islands, but particularly in Norn it was strong. Crossing into the Low West Germanic branch, apart from early modern English developing out of Middle English, there were other developments out of Middle English. There is Scots, which continues to this day. Some people consider it a dialect of English, but it's sort of the speech of Robert Burns, and other people say that there are enough differences, not so much in the grammar, but in the lexicon, the word choice, continuing with a lot of different words and words that were more common in Middle English but went out in modern English but are kept in Scots to make that different. Obviously, that's spoken in Scotland. In Ireland, parts of Ireland, there was something else called Yola, which was similar to Scots and continuing using Middle English vocabulary that modern English did not use. That went extinct in the mid-19th century or earlier before that, but there's some stuff that you can look in that. Frisian or Frisian, again, continues being out of sync in terms of its nomenclature in this early modern time. Is called the middle period of Frisian. And I drew WNE west, north, east at this point to show what could have been, I guess, probably shown earlier, that this is not just a language, it's almost a little language family in itself. And apart from the West Frisian, which is the main branch, the one that I made the video of, there's also North and East Frisian, which are interesting in terms of philology, but these are very, very small languages. Today have hardly any speakers left. It's in this time period also, as I said in the Afrikaans video, that Afrikaans in the latter part of the early modern period immigrates out of the Low Countries to South Africa and starts its separate development. Early New Dutch and Flemish, as it's known in Belgium, are going their course. From Middle Low German being an important at least a commercial language. New Low German is no longer important. The Hanseatic League isn't in effect, and although Germany is not unified into a political entity, it is a cultural entity at this time. And now moving into High German, this is when we get the shift. Because Martin Luther translated the Bible and started the Protestant Reformation using that, this became the standard literary form of modern German, early New High German, and he spoke a dialect of what's called East Central German that was around all before that, but did not have much literary representation either in the medieval time or the older times. And this then becomes the basis for early New High German and Franconian, Alemannic, Bavarian, the upper dialects that had many more texts before. These become sort of regional dialects. So this is an interesting development in the High German thing. And then very interesting, could have been started because it started earlier, growing out of Middle High German, is also the phenomenon of Yiddish. Yiddish is something that I got 5 or 6 specific requests to make a separate video for that, and I would like to have complied with that, but I'm just not in a position to do so because I've never really studied it myself, and the distinctive feature of Yiddish from all the others is that it is written in the Hebrew alphabet. Yiddish means literally Jewish. It's Jewish German, and it grew out of this area, and so I'd like to talk at some length about it to say why I never was intrigued to study it. I think that if I had only known about Yiddish through books and through text, I certainly would have gone out and studied it, but it just so happens that before I became the kind of scholar that would go ahead and make videos like this, much earlier in my life, exactly a quarter of a century ago, I had an extensive encounter with Yiddish that I guess kind of quenched my interest in it, because that encounter taught me that on the basis of my knowledge of German, I was perfectly competent in Yiddish as well. Let me relate that anecdote. As I said, it dates back to the summer after my freshman year of college, when I started studying German and learned a fair amount in a good intensive program, even though I wasn't particularly focused that first year of college. And that summer I got a part-time job as the personal care attendant for an old man who had had a stroke. And as part of the brain damage that he underwent, he would wake up in the middle of the night and he would be disoriented and get increasingly so to the degree that neither his wife or the other attendants could deal with him, because for some reason he could neither speak nor understand English when he woke up in the middle of the night, but only his childhood language, Yiddish. Now, I went into that situation utterly not knowing what I was getting into, but from the very first night that happened, I found on the basis of the German that I'd been studying that he and I were perfectly able to communicate. And this went on all summer. I was able to keep him calm, and he would wake up and we'd have sort of strange, interesting conversations on a basic human communication level. But I found I did take a dictionary, a German dictionary, to look stuff up and to help our conversations along, and it was just never any problem whatsoever to communicate with him speaking Yiddish and me speaking German. And not only that, after the summer was over, when I went back to college and began my sophomore year, I was in general more focused than I was my freshman year, but in no other subject other than German did I just sort of take off as much. I really clicked with the language, and frankly I won some scholarships and other awards on the basis of my achievement in it. And my teacher never said to me anything like, you know, you're speaking Yiddish, or you have any Yiddishisms in your German. It was just much better because I had spent the summer conversing. So if you look in history of Yiddish, it will tell you, most of them will mention that it's had to fight against a sort of slander for much of its existence, being called a corrupt or a decadent dialect of German and the like, and now it's generally acknowledged to be its own language. Well, there's no need for pejorative adjectives like corrupt or decadent, but I do think in my own system of categorization that it's much more appropriate to regard Yiddish as like Franconian or Alemannic or Bavarian, as a dialect of German. It is a dialect of Judeo-German spoken by a distinct sort of group of people, but still, if you can find that you can communicate perfectly well, if somebody who speaks German and somebody who speaks Yiddish need and want to communicate, they can do so, and on the basis of doing so, you make great progress in the other one. I don't see how that can be a different language per se, although what Yiddish is German that has a very high percentage of Hebrew and Slavic terms mixed in as well. So if you wanted to play up the differences, you could. So I'm out of time here for this one, and we'll start the next video.